several times a year, we invite the community to meet with us and to learn something about us. And I hope in the programs we give to learn something about the history of your community as a result of these particular programs. Welcome today. The title of our topic today, the major part of the program, is the 1995 Club and Leisure World. It's a recent activity, and most of you have been involved in it and remember various parts of it. Before getting to the program itself, however, I would like to make 2 or 3 announcements and introductions. In the first place, I would like you to know that this society is now about 5 years old. Today we have a number of speakers who will tell you something about the variety of kinds of things that happen and actions that were taken during the course of the particular flood. The first of the speakers will be Bill Moran, and he will introduce his associate Terry Sears, who will share his remarks with you. Mr. Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I thought when I went through the earthquake of 1994, I had seen it all. No, not really. Because in 1995, the evening of January the 4th was indeed a memorable and historical incident in my life. What happened that evening, I don't know if some of you know or not where my office is located. I think when Mr. McCurdy planned that building, he knew that administrator had to be situated in a location where he or she should be able to see everything what's going on in the community. Almost at about 3:30 p.m. that day, when I was standing in my office and looking out the window, and I saw the rain coming so hard. In my 49 years of my life, I've never seen that much rain fall in such a short period of time. As the minutes went on, my concern became really grave as to what we're going to do today. To share with you the history of that evening, that I don't even need to write notes because everything is right in front of me. I can picture exactly what and how we did that evening. To see the result which you saw, that we were very fortunate that we had no loss of life. We had some inconvenience. Indeed, we had some property damage to our residence property and to the community property. But around 3:30 or so, I was faced with a decision. In this community we have almost 150 or 60 employees working during the daytime between 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. My first concern was how do we get those employees out of this community so they can go to their homes and take care of their families. Well, I advised some of those employees who were living farther away to immediately leave and get in their cars and go home to your families. And yes, some of them did that. But few of the employees which we knew we were going to be asking for their help, I asked them all to please stay behind. Service maintenance department, security department, some of the recreation department, janitorial, we all were waiting to see what's going to happen. Within 45 minutes, the water level in that canal began to move up to the berm. And we knew we were going to have a problem if this rain continues. Indeed, that's exactly what happened. As the sun began to set and the dark evening started, the water became indeed a problem. And I know many of you have seen that video and all these pictures which were taken by the news department. You know the extent of the water that we had in the community. But we were faced with the challenge, how do we first take care of the residents who need the most help? You know, the World Trade Foundation was very well prepared because we had an emergency preparedness practice. We, George Bedford, had done an excellent job of writing things down. We had trained the building captains. We trained the staff. But let me share something with you. All that training, all that practice, it becomes almost impossible to deal with the magnitude of the problem that is facing us that evening. I can only share with you the good things which have happened. I know the pain and the suffering many residents went through, working with various regulatory agencies, Red Cross, the City of Seal Beach, the County of Orange, the Fire Department, and many, many other organizations who were ready and wanted to help us. We began the process of going door to door where we could figure out where the water was coming into the apartments. I remember very clearly that I had one person who stood by me, making sure that I was not going to be lost in this process, and that was Terry Sears. He and I went around in his car, and we were looking to see which roads were going to be open, how we were going to go to the apartments, what kind of equipment we can take and bring the residents up, how we were going to assist the fire department and the ambulances were coming in to see how we can take the residents up. Simultaneously, we began the process of setting up emergency shelter at the Clubhouse number 3. All my service playlist people were around in their cushions, in their tractors, in their trucks, and they were running around trying to see how they can bring out the residents who need the help to get out. But you know, believe it or not, most of the community didn't even know we had a problem. People were watching TV, having their dinner, sleeping, until the newspaper came out. A lot of people had no idea what had just happened to Seal Beach Regional. Outsiders knew. They were sending buses. They wanted to send all kinds of equipment to assist us. But we did have damage which required resources. By the time we began to take the inventory of all the things, and around 9:30, you won't believe this what happened. I was coming back from St. Andrews with Terry, and I see this 2 buses full of people from outside that just went on a tour in the morning, and they were coming back. And they were going to go behind the amphitheater and park there and let the residents go, so that they can go to their homes. And you know the condition of the amphitheater, what it was, how much water we had there. There was no way for these people to be safe, letting them go from the amphitheater to their own homes. They could find their cars probably. God gave me the wisdom to go to the bus driver and tell him not to go there. Instead, I directed the driver to take all these passengers and take them to Clubhouse 3 and Clubhouse 4. Because by then, we had begun the process of providing assistance to the residents. Staff, resident, healthcare center people, they were all beginning to set up things which we thought we would be able to do in case of an emergency. And indeed, that was a true test. Those passengers were taken off. They gave us their names, where they were going. We began to take them one at a time to go to their apartments, and those who were affected by the area, and we were able to identify by then which were the most critically damaged areas that we have in the community. there to assist them, support them, and talk to them. And yes, we did have some very unique people in this process too. We went to one apartment, I remember very clearly listening on the radio, that the couple said, we're not going to leave this apartment. And the water in their apartment was almost knee-deep, because they felt more secure in their apartment. It literally took a tremendous amount of convincing to them that it was not safe for them to be staying there. You know, ultimately we were successful in bringing all the people to the clubhouses. And you know, that night, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning when I had my meeting where we could bring all the staff back to a location. And I talked to each and every one of them. And I told them what a great job they had done, and the volunteers and the residents, and how many people came from everywhere to assist us. They brought food from their home. They brought blankets from their home. They came there to assist us by bringing people from their locations, even though still we had missed some residents who were having the water problem in their apartment and still had not been taken. Clubhouse 2 area, we almost lost a vehicle, a Golden Rain Foundation, a fire truck, an ambulance was stuck there. We had to rescue the ambulance from that area. That night, indeed, was a memorable night for me. By the time we turned around 3:30, 4 o'clock, we knew things had settled down. We had accounted for everything we could imagine. And yes, there were some people needing attention. Terry and I decided that, you know what, we need to go and at least close our eyes for a few minutes. He and I got in the car and we went to Seal Beach downtown to find a place to stay. You know, some of you know there's a Redux hotel there. It was a different name at that time, but that's what it is now. And we went into the lobby. We said, we need a room. And the attendant said, you know, we don't know what we can do for you, but you look around, there's water everywhere. So nice those people were that they gave us a room upstairs on the 2nd floor. And I was going to go in that room for 2 hours. Terry and I stayed there, and we got ready in the morning at 5:30, and we came back into the community, and the rest of it is documented what went on in the coming days. And the decisions were made to move the healthcare center. So many Golden Rain Foundation board members, mutual directors, building captains, all of the people came forward to assist us to see to it that we can bring community into a normal way of living. And yes, we were successful in doing that. Within 2 days, everything was operational. We had cleaned out the apartments wherever the damage occurred. We were successful in bringing assistance financially and emotionally and otherwise for most of the people who were affected by it. And you know, a lot of people did not want to leave Clubhouse free, because the hot food was served for them, morning, noon, and night. They could eat anything, anytime they wanted. They were playing cards, they were having fun. It was camaraderie, wonderful friendship, all the things were being talked about. And it took us long for a few days to get some residents to go back to their apartment. It was a challenge, because there was so much fun that after the initial impact was over. You know, I remember that day, and one of the only things I want you to know, and you probably all know about this community, the strength this community has to be able to get together, and the courage that staff of the Golden Rain Foundation showed. Forgetting about their family, their children, they were here because they were concerned about each and every one of you and your safety. This community gave a wonderful example of cohesiveness, of being able to cope with the worst situation that you can get into, And yes, we are a gated community, but a private community. We're responsible for everything within our walls and what goes on. And yes, we did meet that challenge. I wanted to know that it was a great experience in the most worst condition anybody can go through, sitting and thinking about that, what happened in 1995. Sure, I have sadness and I have feeling of loss and I know property damage was there, but I cannot help not to keep my head high and think how many people came forward and how much help they gave us and how quickly we were able to gather our forces and make this place work so well, so quickly. You know, Terry Sears probably has some of those moments that he can share with you because he was watching me, how I was reacting to things. I'll let Terry share with you those few moments with you. Terry, would you please come forward?
Mr. Narang said it was quite an evening. Looking back, I was thinking about it as I walked over here from the security office. I had just been appointed, promoted 2 or 3 months before, and thought this is going to be quite a learning experience tonight. That evening was probably the proudest time of any time, of all my time. I've been here 18 years, and I think that was probably the proudest day of appointment that I had with Leisure World, because I saw all of the employees that were on site work as a team, work selflessly. They didn't worry about the cold and wet. Everybody was working together with one cause, to make this thing that was bad and go as smoothly as possible. Employees were standing in hip boots up to their waist in the intersections, trying to tell residents, you can't go over there, and our residents don't take that very easily. And the cars were literally going around the employees that were standing there trying to stop them, and the next thing we would have is a stalled vehicle in the middle of that intersection. But those guys stood there for hours. We would bring them hot drinks and snacks, and occasionally if one had to take a restroom break, we'd send a person there for relief. But it was my proudest experience, I think, as an employee of the Golden Rain Foundation. My guys in the auto shop worked 26 hours straight, keeping the vehicles going, keeping all the machines going, getting things back in action as they broke down. We had just received delivery of quote-unquote the new buses. Now those buses are 4 years old, but they were new at the time. They were only a month or 2 old. We were still getting the shakedown cruises on them, and fortunately, those buses happened to be, we were being looked out for. They sit on a little higher suspension. We get the lowest first step that we can, but the suspensions sit higher than normal. And we were actually able to go into places with those buses where the fire trucks couldn't go. There was a fire truck stalled right outside the maintenance yard, right around the corner from where Ms. Anderson lived. And they were stuck on the lawn. They couldn't get turned around, and we had to go by them. And we were relaying people. The worst intersection for the deaf was at El Dorado and Golden Rain. And we were relaying people from where we could get to with the buses up to the higher ground of the parking lot of Clubhouse 2. And then they were being relayed by our minibuses. I had a couple of volunteer drivers come in, former retired Los Angeles police officer who's still one of our drivers, and they were chauffeuring Just one more little story, and then I'm going to pass it on. Whenever I tell a story about this, I refer to it as the night that I almost drowned my committee chairman. As a supervisor, once a month I attend by invitation the meeting of the Golden Rain Board, the committee that deals with security and transportation. And my committee chairman at the time was Mr. Nevin. And he and his wife had gotten separated. He was at the main gate and she was in the apartment. And he was in the office when I got a radio call, and he waited and he heard until I had to go out into the fields. And as soon as he heard that I was going out in the field, he said, "I've got to get a ride as close as I can get to my apartment." And I said, "All right, jump in." So the closest that we could get was about behind the physical property, down the alley to where the pharmacy is, and right then I could feel, and I didn't tell you about a couple times it happened with you in here, I could feel the truck starting to float. And I said, "Mr. Nevin, this is as far as we could go." I said, "You're going to have to get out of here. Are you sure you want to try it?" He said, "Yeah." And the last picture I had that night of my committee chairman was going down the alley behind the pharmacy, hanging on to the wall. And I go, there goes my Leisure World career. I crowned my committee chairman. The final thing was, though, that, in the course of that night, we had emergency centers set up. We had the Red Cross here. The residents were there, and they were beginning the recovery process. And before we left that night, Mr. Narang had already begun and had people on their way here to begin the cleanup process. And I think that was a pretty productive work day. Thank you.
In the interest of time, I want to introduce myself on the way around to the council. I want to just tag on what Terry said. I don't think he knew just how close he comes to losing his supervisor. Jack came down to the corner and was crossing Golden Rain, got halfway across, stumbled on the curb and got underwater. Came back up all the slime and water and everything, he spit out this stuff, but he did get home. He really did home. Well, there was good news and bad news because of this flood. The bad news, of course, was the damage it did. The good news for both the city and the residents of the world, we found out that many of the things that we had practiced for and had planned for were earthquakes. Earthquakes wake you up and let you know it happened. Well, it didn't tell us anything. A lot of people, the first time they knew there was a flood, when they got out of bed and went the first time to the water. So it was a silent killer, it truly was. Now that evening, I was out walking around, watching the rain, things build up, type of thing, and I had gotten in contact with the city. They decided to set the command post, and I had their private number, so I could communicate between the city and Leisure World through just a telephone number with a private number, and I would keep in touch with them. I was surprised around, lose track of time, around 4:15, maybe something along there. I was out walking on the golf course, I was heading back home, and I came by where the drainage, these grates with water goes down into the grates and out to the drainage thing. Water was coming back up those, maybe 3 to 4 inches, coming up the drain instead of down. I knew we were in trouble there. I called City Hall, let them know that. I went back to the golf course. The golf course had filled up from Golden Rain and filled up all the way clear across the golf course to Region 14. It was a solid road from where the starting place is, coming clear over where the water stops up. It was a solid water lid. It was lapping against the porch over Region 14. That's how much water we keep. Now the good news, kind of, is that we learned something from this. Now I want to correct some mistakes, and I say mistakes because of misinformation. People, as soon as the flood was over, say, well, the floodgates, didn't know. We don't have any floodgates. The only floodgate that is in existence is right out of the front of the Allen property, and it lets water in and out of the channel, we can see into the cooling basin. It lets water from there into the wetlands, but there was no gate that opens and closes, so that was a mistake. They said the pumps didn't work. The fellow went over and looked at the pumps, and they didn't work. The pumps are recorded. When they come on, how they were on the capacity rate. I have personally seen the charts of the pumps came up and worked, they weren't as well as they could. Also, they said the channel had been plugged up to than we had in the flood. The difference is time. We have coming down in a 3-hour period that is equivalent to 120 years flood. When we look at the charts, it's trying to measure the amount of rain coming down. It's between 120 and 150 years flood. We have more rain coming down in 3 hours than anything has ever been recorded in Seal Beach. El Nino started out. We had lots of rain, we get breaking, lots of rain was breaking, lots of rain was breaking. Had we gotten that intensity of rain during El Nino, we would have had some flood. Now, what are we doing to prevent that from happening in the future? We got with FEMA, we got with the flood control district, we got with the county of Orange. And we're fortunate, we have the supervisor for the county of Orange, Jim Silva. His mother lives here. He comes out every Wednesday to breakfast here. So he's very sympathetic to what we're doing for these ones. He got on to the people with the flood control, they had to come out, and we worked out the plan. Our plan working with FEMA is some of our water comes along the backside of the school, some comes back through the channel, some comes from College Park, some comes from the Navy base. We can't do much yet with the water that comes from College Park and the Navy base. We have plans, but nothing yet. A lot of the water comes down, clear the other side of the tower, further north, and charging all the way down here. There is a spot just around Catella where the flood control basin and the San Diego River occurs and they come back together. We can put 4 pumps in there and pump it just over the wall all right over. So we can get all that water that comes loose from the north. We can burn that into the San Diego River and that would take 90% of the water from the north. We'll probably never have another flood once they get in. We're also upgrading the pumps. It turns out we didn't know it that night, but the water had got so high in the catch basin, it overflowed the catch basin. It was coming into one of the village down there, they have a name down there. The village that is along Reservation Boulevard. I don't know. Water had come up against their well. The pumps were an 1/8 of an inch from being flooded out. It turns out that the pumps are the back. Not only can you get flooded out, but if somebody bumped into a electrical pole or anything, the pumps would go out and just be off. Since then, we've been arranging to the city of Long Beach, have on standby generators, and they can be here in 15 minutes. So if the electricity goes out of those pumps, we'll have a standby generator to dump those pumps running again in 15 minutes. We've increased the capacity of the pumps. We've increased if you ever go to that catch basin, they have a grid out there to keep the large debris from getting in and crossing up the pumps. The grid was such that it held much of the debris there to where it held the water in the catch basin. It was almost closing the valves of the water. We have rearranged the grid in such a way that it will not only hold most of the debris, but it will put it out to the side and pull the debris off to one side and divert it so the water can get through. So we think it's a major step. We don't believe that we will have the damage to Vision World even if we have a flood like we had a few years back. We're also making arrangements to convert those I was standing there, and I just got all my chemicals out. I thought, which one should I start on now? Then I noticed that my feet were a little unusually cold. I thought to myself, fine, George, I got socks on, yes, I got shoes on, yes. Then why is it cold? So I looked down on my feet. Well, there was a little reflection on the floor. I thought, gee, must be clean. Reflection? No, it was not clean. It was a reflection of moisture. So I thought, oh, gee, those darn drains are going to start coming up again. We had a drain in the middle of the dark room floor. Now, first of all, I have to tell you, for those that don't know what a dark room is, that's where you get in the dark to do development, make pictures, and so forth. We have a club right here in Leisure Ward, called the Dark Room Photography Club. And we go down there and take our pictures and do our own developing. Now, this is situated where the amphitheater is. If you're sitting up looking at the stage, down on the left-hand side, you'll see some steps that go underneath the amphitheater stage. On the other side, I think, is storage. And so that's where we go, down in the ground, underneath the theater, to do our work and fun. So anyway, back to the story. My feet, they were cold. There was moisture on the floor. I thought the drain was pumping up because we have this drain in the middle of the floor. So I went over to the drain and I thought, no water coming up there. I thought, gee, where's this coming from? As I looked around, I could see a little ripple underwater. Because at first it was just a sheet, and that was a ripple. So I thought, my gosh, it's coming in from somewhere. And so I followed the little waves, so to speak, around and around, and all the way around to the front wall of the amphitheater. I looked down, and the light there was very dim, and I looked out and coming back, and I could see underneath the door, the water was coming in. So I thought, oh, drat, there goes my photography for the day. I won't be out taking more pictures. Now, all this time I'm in ignorance. I didn't know what was going on outside. The rain was pouring down here in buckets. I could hear the rain, and I thought, oh, just another rainy day. It's just California, longer than that now and again. And so anyway, I thought, well, I'd better pack up and get out of there. So I went back there and kind of looked around and thought, the water was about an inch now, already. And I thought, well, this can't come over 6 inches because they told me that's the highest amount it gets. They were lying. They didn't know about 95. And so anyway, I started putting the trays away. We have several trays out there with different chemicals, and it takes a little time and clean up and this, that, and the other. So I started doing things, not much of a panic at that time. But then I started to notice that inch of water was now about that much. 6 inches and over. I thought, my gosh, it must be coming in pretty fast now. I'd better start moving. So I went into top gear. I started moving the trays around, pouring the chemicals back in again, and so on and so on. Time I got everything what I thought was just about right. I looked around and thought, well, that's not everything there. The water was about a foot high. So my shoes were wet. I didn't like that, but they needed washing anyway. So anyway, I thought to myself, what about electrical equipment? Electrical equipment? My God, I thought to myself, I could be cooked down here. Ever heard of cooked Englishman? Never. Like you know. Anyway, I thought to myself, I'd better get out some things that were on the floor, damaged and so forth. We had a couple of pieces of equipment which were left. So I put them up on the table. I thought, well, that's all safe now. I'd better get out of here. So by that time, the water was up to my knees and rising fast. So I So anyhow, so I gotta get out of here, no problem. And so I literally had to use muscle on that door to get out of there. And as I pushed open the door, finally, it was being held back by all the water. You know where the lowest part in Beach Road is? I know down there, it's right there where I was standing, down in the dark room, underneath that amphitheater. And I believe that was true, because when I opened that door, the water wasn't just running down the steps there, it was pouring down the steps. So I really had to kind of struggle to get up and get out of there. So anyway, I did get out, and I returned about an hour and a half afterwards or so, and that place was flooded up to the ceiling, and it wound up 6 feet above. So the lesson of that was, when I start to see mice and cockroaches lying up in twos, I should get out of there. Thank you.
I'm Shirley Rivers, and in 1995, I was the treasurer at Redeemed Lutheran Church. I do hope you forgive me because I'm going to read most of this. It's a very traumatic time for me. I think some of you realize and understand my place was underwater, and so I was running back and forth. It's been hard to go back and relive those days, but it's been very rewarding. The devastation brought up such an outpouring of support. I think it strengthened all of us. Wednesday night, no one could reach the church. Thursday morning, there was a steady stream of shocked members saying, "What can I do to help?" The 12 inches of water in the sanctuary conference room office had receded, leaving a soaked carpet, organ, the bases of the pews, altar linens, choir robes, and masses of records that had been wet down. The inner office is lower than the main floor, and so we had a pool in there we could wade in. People carted home boxes of records to dry out, linens to wash, robes to clean. I received a very wet checkbook and a very wet ledger, as well as a package of cash, which was really soaked. Took a little while to dry these out. They were useful. I was given the responsibility of contracting the insurance company, and fortunately the insurance file had stayed dry. It was filed high. While the insurance did not cover the flood damage, they did recommend a restoration firm that came out that afternoon. By the way, all was dark in the building. You see, the electrical panels were all underwater. And we had no telephone. But a neighbor who lived adjacent to the church offered the use of their phone. The Steel Beach Fire Department came up trying to pump the water from the basement as their generator in the building was just too light, and even though you saw the video, saw the water gushing out, it was too slow. But Bill Nermag obtained a vacuum pump truck for us when he arranged for the pumping of the swimming pool and the amphitheater. I remember the look as I looked down the stairs into the best basement of the dirty, black water. It was just a few feet below floor level. Look around you and look at this big beam across here. That's about a 12-foot height. About from here on down to the wall is about the size of our basement. That was completely full. Total. Everything underwater. I can also remember the water in the conference room. Well, it had been on the floor, but by that time it had receded. But as I looked up at the ceiling, it was dripping off the ceiling. In the afternoon of Friday, the restoration people gave up. It was too big a job for them. But contacts through the city of Sioux Beach gave me the name of an electrical contractor, a local man. He looked at the church that night and agreed by phone to take the job. I was sleeping in Long Beach at a friend's home since my place had been flooded out. By Saturday morning when I got to the church, a generator and crew had started work in the sanctuary. This man did follow through. He worked for months and did an excellent job. By Sunday, services were held here in Clubhouse 1 with thanks to the Golden Rain Foundation, and at that time the congregation voted to approve the hiring of the restoration person. The office was flooded, but adjacent to the church is an apartment which was owned by a member who was in a rest home. We were able to rent this with the okay of Regional 14 to use as an office. Papers and supplies were lost, but the copier, computer, and electrical typewriter were not damaged. They had been above the flood level. Another member of the rest home made his apartment available to store belongings in the interim. So a lot of things were taken over there for safety. On the 9th of April, 4 months later, we re-entered the sanctuary. Carpet had been replaced, members had been finished the legs of the pews, and I can see those members lying on the floor with steel wool, and they refinishing whatever they used to refinish it on their backs to refinish the legs of those pews. That went on for days. The electrical system had been relocated to ground level to provide lights, heat, and air circulation. The ducts had been cleaned, and the building had been okay for use upstairs. On the 10th of September was the day we finally used the fellowship hall in the basement. It seems that the dehumidifiers have been going for weeks. Dishes, silver, and all kitchen equipment and cabinets have been cleaned. 2 new stoves and 2 refrigerators were replaced. Some pumps have been cleaned. The organ motor and elevator lift have been reconditioned. The ceiling, lights, and ducts have been replaced. The church library and piano were a total loss, as were the tables, chairs, and the comfortable furnishings. But the 1 million gallons of water taken by our basement saved many homes from being flooded. All of Leisure World stopped and stepped in to help. We received support from churches as well as members and friends. I think of the man passing by those first weeks who pulled out $25 because he wanted to help. Several churches in Orange County sent work crews to aid in the cleanup. Many churches in California, as well as from as far away as Florida and Pennsylvania, sent contributions ranging from $100 to $5,000. The Small Business Administration estimated a cost of $300,000 to clean, replace, and restore. But in 1995, the contributions received designated for the flood totaled $184,000. This was cash received. So we only had the right of $150,000. And best news of all, as of March 10th this year, the church only owes $52,000 to the Small Business Administration. We're paying this off monthly. So although it was very devastating, and I really didn't want to look back and get all this detail, it was very rewarding, and everybody stepping in to help not only with money
wonderful series of stories it has been our privilege to hear this afternoon. Thanks to Bill Durant, Terry Sears, George Brown, Bob Dodson, Shirley Lyons. These stories, of course, will not be lost to posterity. It is the obligation and the duty and the privilege of the Historical Society to preserve these so that in the future they may know what happened in the leisure world in 1995. I shall conclude with a story about a person that Bill Durant referred to who didn't know there was a flood going on. As a consequence, I, who was ignorant of that flood, went over to Clubhouse 2 for the purpose of looking at our archives that we had stored there. And lo and behold, when I got over there were the custodians sweeping out Clubhouse 2. I thought that was rather odd. But interestingly, in the middle of Clubhouse 2, on a stand of chairs, was a skunk sitting in solitary slumber. May I say, the custodians were treating him with a great deal of respect. And again, thanks to our speakers who put on this performance this afternoon, and thanks to my colleagues who made this program possible. Thank you.
I'm Tom Barrett. I'm the Vice President of the Historical Society, and I'm in charge of the exhibits for the presentation today. And these are pages from the edition of the Leisure World News, which was on January 12th of 1995. On the other side, we have pictures of the damage done. This one over here is the things that happened after the flood was over. And it shows the Leisure World News, several stories. It shows pictures of the cleanup. The other side then of this is pictures taken by residents and the front pages of the LA Times after the flood. This exhibit table shows one of our most important features, taking oral histories of Leisure World residents. We've taken 22 oral histories of the Leisure World residents, and some of their pictures are displayed on the table. This is the Lions Club table. We were very, very fortunate to, when the Lions Club closed up the last year, to get a number of artifacts and scrapbooks from the Lions Club. And this is a table representing just a very small portion of our collection on the Lions Club. We have both things on the other side for the Ladies Lions and for the Lions Club proper. And then we have some tied. This is George Bedford's scrapbook when he was president of the Lions Club in 1993. This is the scrapbook for Bob Sinclair, and I believe that Bob was the last president of the Lions Club. But each scrapbook is unique. Each scrapbook was prepared for the president as a gift at the end of his term. So each makes a very interesting documentation of the history. This is the Lady Lions scrapbook from 1980 to 1996, which covers many of the events that they had going on. So we have a very large collection of club scrapbooks and also individual scrapbooks. This is a collection of things from various clubs, both of the scrapbooks and memorabilia, early membership rosters. This is a presentation on Leisure World the Beautiful, done for the Garden Club in 1995, which shows various gardens which were outstanding in that year. This is the railroad bus, which used to exist, and they used to take train tours all over the country. And this book documents their trips. The Swedish Club collection, which is much larger than just a couple of books represented here. The American Legion, District 2, which again we have a larger collection, and the Art League. And in each case, these are just representatives of the many scrapbooks we have from both these various clubs. Then over here is a portion of our books by local authors. Every book on this table was written by someone who lived in Leisure World. Now, it may be about anything in the any topic that they may have interest in, but each person is a writer who lived here. We've been working very hard with the Writers Club. This table here is a portion of our collection of the Leisure World China. The one thing we don't have are any cups, just like anybody. This is the only cup we have, and we have been trying very, very hard to get either have cups made to match it or try and find where there may be some cups. But like everybody else, the cups for Leisure World China have been broken first. So, but it's a lovely set. It was done in 1962 by the Franciscan in Glendale, the Franciscan Pottery Company. We started out with about 30 or 40 pieces that Fred Cooper had been able to save over the years, and we've now had donations added to it till we have almost 100 pieces. There is some more available, which we hopefully one day will get. We just recently received 16 pieces from a lady who'd saved it many years ago. They used it for some dinner parties and this kind of thing in the early days. Originally, there were 3 clubhouses with kitchens. I think this was only in one clubhouse, and I'm not quite sure how many pieces there were, but we've got, for instance, now we have 35 of these luncheon or salad plates, and that's the most number of any pieces we have right now. And in fact, we're going to use these today to serve the cookies on for each table. So that we felt that we'd like to be able to use it. This is more various clubs, more scrapbooks. It's the Radio Club, the Leisure World Twirlers, and the Retired Teachers Association, California Retired Teachers Association. And then this is an interesting one. This is a scrapbook from a group of people who did Braille transcription. There was a group some years ago who took classes and learned how to do Braille work, and they actually did the typing and transcription for Braille. They were called the Leisure World transcribers. Oh, there's so many electronic things that can be done now that it is much easier. We have all the scrapbooks from the Golden Age Foundation, plus an example of some of the plaques that they give out each year. Especially for people who made large contributions to the GoldenAge Foundation. I think it started around 1972, and it's a chance to do a number of good things. And it's a tax-free foundation, so people were able to make a donation and be able to be tax deductible. We had an opportunity to get a number of headlines from the LA Times over the years, and so we put them together so people could sort of reminisce. Just extras and various things, and put together the Kennedy assassination, the St. Francis Dam, which happened in 1928. And so there are about 30 or 40 headlines, and it's just fun. People enjoy looking at them and reminiscing over them. Here is the room in Clubhouse 1, which we use as a permanent exhibit area. One of our major projects is to store as many club records as we possibly can. And we store them in Xerox boxes, and sort of like a safety deposit box set up, and the club is able to store their records here with us, and then they are available to the club to use or take or whatever they would like to do, or if we have permission in the club, we can use them like for today on exhibits. We have a very large plaque from World War I, the World War veterans plaque, which used to be in Clubhouse 2. We've got the copies of all the Leisure World newspapers from the beginning to today. We have a large scrapbook collection of both club scrapbooks and individual scrapbooks. We've got a number of aerial views of Leisure World, and copies of all the papers that an original movement received back in 1963. Last is how the Leisure World globe's been used in a number of very interesting landscaping around the globe in the early days. Now it changed, and then this is how the globe was used in various backdrops and decals. One of the letters in there describes the fact that in 1963 they had terrible floods here, and the construction got way behind. People were about 6 weeks late moving in. The floods are a continuing problem we have from time to time. time. On the table here, we have a couple of interesting things. One is the signed shooting script from Highway to Heaven, which was a Michael Landon production, which is filmed here at Leisure World. Then we have a couple of books which are signed by all the various Lawrence Welk people who have appeared at the amphitheater the years. Both of those were gifts from Fred Cooper, who had maintained them. Then the other item on the table is a 1963 story in Life magazine about Leisure World. It was the November 8th, 1963 issue, and The Widening World of Retirement Towns. And it discusses Leisure World Seal Beach. One time called Rossmore Leisure World before it became Seal Beach Leisure World. Of course, Ross Cortese was the builder and developer of Leisure World, and that's why it was called Rossmore originally.